clack, clack, clack. Okay, so imagine you're sitting at your desk, right? You're trying to finally focus on that complex report you've been putting off all week, and suddenly the sharp, rapid-fire click of a mechanical keyboard just pierces right through your concentration. I mean, it's just a regular, everyday office sound, but for some reason today, it completely breaks your train of thought. You take a breath, you look back at your screen, you try to recover your momentum, but man, your attention is already entirely shattered.
And just as you're pulling your focus back together, finally finding your place on the page, boom, a loud, booming laugh erupts from the sales desk, like 3 rows over. Then, suddenly, the low hum of the fluorescent lights feels 10 times louder than it did a minute ago. The overlapping chatter of a casual meeting by the water cooler starts blending with the relentless ping, ping, ping of notifications from your neighbor's phone. The noise just builds. It builds and builds, layering sensory input upon sensory input, until the tension in your shoulders is wound tighter than a drum.
If this sounds at all familiar to you, I want to pause for a second, because I really need you to know something absolutely crucial. For a lot of us, this isn't just a minor annoyance or a simple lack of focus. It literally feels like a physical blow to your nervous system. It registers as actual physical distress. It causes your heart rate to spike, your breathing gets shallow. Listen, you aren't imagining it. And you certainly aren't just being difficult. You're experiencing a real biological reaction to a completely overwhelming environment. So, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tackling surviving the open office. We're going to unpack the fascinating science behind why these shared modern workspaces literally hurt certain people. And much more importantly, how we can use biology to not just survive them, but actually thrive. We're going to explore how to build what we call the Orchid's professional greenhouse. Honestly, understanding this concept can completely transform the way we look at how we work and how we treat ourselves in the workplace. Now, before we go any further, I want to ask you directly, how does your nervous system react to your current desk setup? Really think about it for a second. When you sit down at your workstation, do you feel a sense of calm, readiness, focus? Or do you immediately feel your body tense up, almost as if you're subconsciously bracing for impact? You know, your answer to this isn't just about whether you like the ergonomics of your chair or the view from the window. It's actually a direct window into the biological reality of why we all react so incredibly differently to our work environments. Okay, let's dive into section 1, dandelions versus orchids. This is a brilliant framework that explains exactly why your coworker might absolutely love the bustling open office while you're completely miserable. Researchers use this amazing analogy to describe human sensitivity in the workplace. You've got the dandelion worker and the orchid worker. So the dandelion worker is highly resilient to their surroundings. Think about an actual dandelion in nature, right? It can grow through a crack in a concrete sidewalk, it survives harsh weather, it thrives pretty much anywhere you plant it. Dandelion workers can just tune out the noise, work from a busy cafe, or sit right in the middle of a chaotic sales floor without missing a single beat. But then we have the orchid worker. Orchids are highly sensitive. In the wrong environment, without the right soil and moisture, an orchid quickly wilts. They have a visceral, highly sensitive reaction to their surroundings, but, and this is the absolute key point here, given the right environment, the right care, and the perfect conditions, orchids produce some of the most spectacular, beautiful, and complex work imaginable. They're capable of incredibly deep, focused, and high-quality output. They just fundamentally require the right setting to do so. Moving on to section 2, the evolutionary mismatch. Now, what's really interesting here is that it tells us being an orchid isn't a weakness. It's actually an issue of human biology clashing with modern architecture. So the crucial point we need to define is evolutionary mismatch. This happens when an organism's traits, which were perfectly adapted to its ancestral environment, become maladaptive in a newly created modern environment. This completely validates your experience, because your orchid brain evolved to be highly attuned to subtle changes in a quiet, natural world. I mean, being hyper-aware of a twig snapping or a rustle in the bushes is what kept your ancestors safe. But when you take that finely tuned, highly sensitive brain and drop it into an open-plan office with ringing phones, bright fluorescent lights, and 50 overlapping conversations, well, it's like putting a high-performance sports car engine into a tractor. Your brain is reacting exactly as it evolved to. It's just in the entirely wrong setting, which causes your nervous system to literally overheat from the sheer effort of processing all that data. Let's move to this table and see how this builds. Look at the stark contrast between the quiet natural world your brain expects and the modern office. In the quiet natural world, the environment is calm, predictable, and features very low, manageable sensory input. Your brain uses minimal energy to filter this out. But the modern office? It's loud, deeply chaotic, and represents a state of constant sensory overload. To put that into perspective, a tremendous amount of productivity is lost every single day just from employees trying to recover their focus after being derailed by open office noise. When a highly sensitive orchid is forced to operate in this chaotic environment for 8 hours a day, they're using vast amounts of unseen cognitive energy just to filter out the background noise. And that leaves very little actual energy for their complex professional work.
Which brings us to Section 3, your professional greenhouse. If your brain is overheating because of this mismatch, we need to shift our focus to how we can adapt and protect that highly sensitive nervous system.
Here is exactly how you build your professional greenhouse using specific career strategies designed entirely for the highly sensitive worker to thrive, rather than just barely survive. Step 1, recognize your orchid traits. You have got to stop beating yourself up for not being a dandelion. Acknowledge your need for quiet and deep focus as a completely valid biological reality. Step 2, implement career strategies specifically for the highly sensitive. This means advocating for yourself, negotiating for hybrid workdays, ruthlessly blocking out no-meeting deep work blocks on your calendar, and politely but firmly establishing communication boundaries with those chatty coworkers. And finally, step 3, build a protective work environment. If you absolutely must be in the open office, you've got to build your greenhouse right at your desk. Invest in high-quality noise-canceling headphones, position your computer monitor to physically block visual distractions from foot traffic, curate your desk to be a calming, focused microenvironment. You must proactively take control of the sensory input you allow into your professional space. So that brings us to a final, provocative question I want to leave you with today. Are you planting an orchid in an open office desert? I enthusiastically encourage you to look closely at your own workspace today and really, finally, stop forcing yourself to be a dandelion. If your biology requires a greenhouse, then it's time to build one. Protect your nervous system, honor your sensitivity, and just watch how incredibly you can bloom when you finally give yourself the right environment. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope you use these tools to completely transform the way you work.